Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. My guests have written some of the most beloved musicals from the past few decades, including Hairspray, Catch Me If You Can, and TV's Smash, which, by the way, is coming to Broadway. One writes the music, and the two of them write the lyrics. And they are back this season with the hilarious, show-stopping musical, Some Like It Hot. Please say hello to Marc Shaiman and Scott Wittman. Gentlemen, I am thrilled to be sitting with you here at Sardi's.
I'm just thrilled to be sitting.
Well, we like that, right across the street from the Schubert Theater, where your incredible musical, Some Like It Hot, is playing.
Oh, thank you, Richie. We'll sit anywhere with you.
Oh, well, you know, I love this show, and I want to go back to the beginning for a second. I've seen your show 4 times already at the Schubert, and like I said, I just love to watch the audience. The doors open at the end, people with smiles on their face, dancing out the Schubert Theater onto Schubert Alley. There's nothing better in town than your show. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for writing it. But take me back to the beginning. How did this all come about for you to write in the first place?
Well,
in general?
Yeah, well, no, not this show.
Oh. Craig Zadan and Neil Marin called us and said they had gotten the rights. They'd been working for a while on securing the rights to it, which took a while. And we had just finished working with them on Smash.
and one of the songs, obviously, in Smash was Let's Be Bad, which was in a universe was Marilyn inside of Marilyn inside of Marilyn. So we seemed a good fit to them, and we've enjoyed working with them.
And at first we said, I don't think so, because we have been through Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Mary Poppins Returns. We just found ourselves constantly working on these iconic projects that already had musicals, and it can be rough. And so we're like, we're not going to do that again. This had 2. It had a classic, iconic movie, and it had already been a musical. So we're going to act like we could do something that Jules Stein and Bob Merrill couldn't have. But then Craig and Neil said, what do you think? We think sugar should be black. The main idea was to stop someone from having to be compared to Marilyn Monroe. And we thought, oh, that's what kind of stopped us in our tracks and stopped us from saying no. We were like, well, that's fascinating.
And they also had Casey Nicola in the mix, and we had done one episode of Smash that Casey directed, and always been a fan, and so that was exciting. And they also brought up Matthew Lopez as the book writer. So then all of a sudden it became intriguing, and so we were working on Mary Poppins in London on the movie, and then when we came back, we just started working with Matthew and breaking it down and figuring out how we wanted to tell the story.
I made myself comfortable here. Is this all right?
Oh, I love it. It's like a yoga pose.
He plays the piano like this, too.
You do, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
This is the way my legs naturally go.
And I'm about to have a hip replacement. It's pathetic.
From all your dancing years,
Yeah.
right? But, let's talk about Matthew Lopez. I think the team you have on this is absolutely brilliant because you've Some Like It Hot is such an iconic movie. And like I said, the Marilyn Monroe thing, it was so wonderful that he decided, let's make her black, which I think is really wonderful. The movie took place in 1929, right?
Earlier because it's very flapper. It's all the flappers kind of era, Charleston's and things like that. Yeah.
We made all the little or big things that could make it a little different from the movie. So we moved it to the 30s, so it looked different. When you think of Some Like It Hot, the movie, you're in what are those hats that the women? There's a word for it. Cloches. Yes. So just the idea that it could look a little different the way that they're dressed, and also Matthew liked the idea of making it be the end of Prohibition, so that the show could end with
the big happy note where they could all, get good but be bad.
Yeah. Because it shifted to the 30s, right?
Yeah.
1933?
Right, and it's also the beginning of a new sound, and also for Casey, it was a new dance vocabulary. It wasn't Charleston's, it was real strong partnering dance, and it was a lot of, and for Greg Barnes, it was a new look, a silhouette, and for Scott Pask, it was a whole nother, design element. So it kind of all made sense to move it to that time, and so we worked back from the end of Prohibition to the middle of it.
Well, I love the sound of this show. I love the sound of all your shows because there's always a distinct musical sound. When you knew it was moving to the 30s, let's talk about the sound. When you two write, do you think of a title first? What kind of research do you do? Because I know you do a lot of research, right?
I do so much research. Yeah. Some might call it procrastination, but I call it research. But I like to I watched hundreds of Jimmy Cagney movies. I read hundreds of Damon Runyon short stories, Joan Blondell movies. I mean, and read books about Al Capone and Texas Guinan and Victoria Spivey and all those characters that were so important of that era. And you never know, because one word peeks out at you, and all of a sudden you go, oh, well, that could be great in a song, you know. And so I start to write all those down, and I really can't work until, because we write lyrics together, I can't really do it until I have like a title in my head.
But sometimes we don't have it. I'll drag him kicking and screaming into the room without the title, and then we just come up with phrases, go back and forth, and sometimes the title arises from that. Sometimes, though, we do walk into the room with the title already in hand, because it lets you know it defines what the song is going to be. Then we throw words around and phrases around, and then when we have enough words and phrases, I step over to the piano and see which phrases start to sing. And then once they start to sing, then with all these phrases in front of me, I'll write a version of the song, sometimes with these phrases and sometimes with ridiculous, nonsensical words. And sometimes other stuff comes out of me and then we go back and then we really start to carve the lyrics. Now there's a melody and a rhythm and where the emphasis has to be, and you know, and then we just really write the lyrics. And we always start with like, oh God, we have no ideas what to do. And then 3 days later, when we're at that point where I was just describing, we invariably always write too many verses. We have so many verses to Some Like It Hot that are not in the show. I think there's like 4 or 5 other verses that could go in there.
Well, we obviously write from character. I mean, that's the beginning of it all. And so often, you know, say that if Matthew, we would say to Matthew, could you write a monologue of what you think this should be? And he'll write it in his, you know, he has a kind of a very special prose manner. And so we would, you know, we'll take from that and steal and steal and steal and then until something comes out.
Yeah. The jazz sound, I mean, music lives in your head, Mark, I'm sure. Well, I know it does.
Well, in this case, we knew it takes place in the early 30s.
Yeah.
But
it was a big band going on the road, so yes.
The fact that it's a band on the road in the 30s certainly gave the foundation of what the music should sound like. But I also didn't want to worry about trying to make a documentary. And the reference I use is MGM. If you watch an MGM movie that was made in the 30s, the 40s, or the 50s, it just sounds like MGM. It's a classy, exuberant, big band with strings, you know. And
the way Singing in the Rain, you would watch Singing in the Rain, but it takes place in the 20s, but it's still...
It has elements of the sound of the 20s, but it also sounds like MGM. And so I was just really going for an MGM sound with the music of just that whole era. You know, 20s, 30s, 40s, as heard in the 50s, how they, you know, in the 50s, MGM just totally glorified those previous decades. And so that was, you know, it was just fun to just not worry, well, gee, did they use this kind of chord in 1932? I'm too old to be bothered with that now. Yeah.
But back to the 30s, all those beautiful big band singers. I mean, I'm sure that helped you when you were crafting songs for the Sugar Cane character.
Yes, I
mean,
mean,
Sweet Sue.
Yes, yes, because well, you know, Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, they were band singers who were on buses and trains, and so yes, that very much influenced the songs we wrote for Adriana, and so. Yeah, I mean, and it was also a great time of a collaboration between people like Harold Arlen and Lena Horne, and they were where they were writing songs for big revues uptown and stuff like that. So it was a great time where actually black and white artists were working together.
When you wrote some of the songs before the show came into town, once the show was cast, do you write for a voice? Do you write for an actor sometimes? I mean, you have some of the best people in Some Like It Hot, and I was wondering if some of the songs, were they tailored for them?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly wrote, you know, when Christian joined us, that's we had worked with him on Smash, obviously, and Charlie, so we knew him really well, and yeah, we do. We tend to showcase whatever that artist brings to the table as well as best we can. So
yeah, but also, I mean, we wrote for the characters, and then you cast for what you've written in the characters. So it's you know, but you certainly do say, oh, that note sounds great on him. Let's make sure that the key we're in gets to the key of B, so that F sharp is, you know. So you certainly, you know, wrap yourself around the performer.
The way that Casey knew how well Christian tap danced, so he knew that he wanted that to be the beginning of meeting that character when he taps with Jay in the opening.
What was the first number you wrote for Some Like It Hot, and what was the last number you wrote for the show?
We wrote the opening number first.
Nice.
Well, we actually, you know what? I don't know when this is airing, but we're doing a show at 54 Below, Some Like It Cut.
Nice.
And we're doing songs that we wrote that fell by the wayside before what is over there now. And there was actually another opening number first called Feeling No Pain. And it has some of the lyrics that ended up in What Are You Thirsty For? But I think it was Scott who, after we wrote the song, he then came in one day and said, shouldn't this song be called What Are You Thirsty For?
I might have been in this very room and thought of that.
Yeah, I bet a waiter said it to him. Speaking of that, that's one of my favorite stories. That we wrote a song, Sugar's first song is called The Darker Shade of Blue, which is this great Ellingtonian, you know, title. It sounds like right out of something out of Duke Ellington.
But I carry around a little black notebook. It's like a little black notebook usually, and if something comes, you know, in the daytime, somebody says something or I see something, I'll write it down. But I kept trying to think, what could this title be that feels like Duke Ellington wrote it, or Billy Strayhorn, or, you know, and so I went to replace my backsplash in the kitchen, and I was looking for a new tile, and I said, don't you have a darker shade of blue?
So you never know where it's going to come.
I love that. Because a lot of times you do come up with the title first sometimes, right?
Yes. Well, we knew she wanted to sing about saxophone players, and those are always kind of blue, and those notes, and so we just had to come to that. It took tile.
Did you get that darker shade of blue?
I did.
Okay. I love that. Collaborations are really special. You two have an incredible working relationship. I mean, what you put out there and everything else. But I mean, what do you think is the secret to your collaboration? Why do you think your collaboration works so well?
Well, we finish each other's sentences often, and we laugh at most of the same things. We both know when to say when.
We do?
We do.
I love that song from Goldilocks.
See?
Oh, that's something that Scott taught me, because when I moved into New York when I was 16 and then 17, I ended up for a few months staying with Scott and his friend Billy and Tracy up on 79th Street, and they used to play the Goldilocks cast album over and over again. And I don't know if it was because you played it over and over again, but it's just such a great score. And I just recently, I you know, hit the little button in my car saying, play Goldilocks, original cast album, wanting to see if my car could figure it out. And they did. And there was Elaine Stritch, just at her most Elaine Stritchy. You know, I love that score. Where were we? What were we talking about?
When to say when.
Oh,
when to say
collaboration.
When. Collaboration. I mean, you know, because it's candor and ebb. I've spoken to all these people through the years of why you think you all worked so well together and continue to do so.
Well, as I said, it's got to be a similar sense of humor.
I think, I mean,
humor and taste, and
we both want to see the same show.
Yeah.
Like Some Like It Hot. That's the kind of show we would want to buy a ticket and go see. So when we sit down to write, we want to write the kind of thing that we want to go see.
We like to make an audience happy, so
But you do make the audience happy, and it's a perfect show. Like I said, it really is a fantastic show. What was the first show, or what was the first song you wrote together, like just as collaborators, not with this show, just in general?
It was for the High Heeled Women comedy group that we were both working with.
This is like 1976 or 5.
Yeah, no,
77?
No, they might have even been in the 80s. But so there was a comedy group, 5 female comedians or actresses.
Yeah.
And Scott was directing, and I was the musical director. And one sketch came up that needed a song, and no existing song really worked. And we were like, well, let's just write it. And we wrote that song, waiting for our wave to come in. And
that begat, you know.
Yeah.
And you knew right then and there, it's like, we're going to compose
Well, we
together.
had a clubhouse, which I think you might have gone to
Yeah.
in the East Village in the 80s, and it was a club called Club 57, and we wrote a musical there. We were in very heady company because it was us and Jean-Michel Basquiat and Keith Haring. I would say to Keith, get these paintings out of here. I have a show. But then we would write original pieces there that we would do, you know, and it was fun. That was fun. I was fearless.
You two still are, but I used to love to go to the late night shows of yours, like in downstairs at Danceteria, one of these clubs. I'd see
They're all in the Museum of Modern Art now.
Yeah, so people can go there to watch them,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Isn't that amazing? Get your paintings out of here. I got a show to do. We need to talk about Smash. I mean, I just love the history of Smash. It's become this cult favorite of everybody who sort of watched it, didn't watch it, fell in love with it, you know, and it's just this like, you know, it's like Lord of the Rings. It's like myth becomes legend, legend becomes myth, right?
It's nutty because I just did a Broadway cruise. I've never done one of those.
Yeah.
And it was 3,000 people, and all they wanted to know about was Smash. So it's funny, and they were younger. I mean, it seems to have you know, permeated another strata. They've watched it over and over and over again. They know everything, and all they want to know is about Smash, Smash, Smash.
Yeah. So. Well, what can you tell us about Smash? Because we know it's coming to Broadway. I mean, the cat's out of the bag.
Yes.
It's like the multiverse version of the TV show. And so multiverses are very popular in the last few years with everything, everywhere, all at once, and Thor, and they're multiverses, and Ant-Man. So I think that's a phrase that makes sense. It's like Smash, but it's different.
Right.
So we hope people aren't going to be like, oh, but that didn't happen on the TV show that way.
What it does have is in abundance is great humor. So it's a very, very funny script written by 2 very funny men, Bob Martin and Rick Ellis, and then it's being choreographed by Josh Bergas, who did the show, the TV show, and it's being directed by Susan Stroman. So we laugh a lot when we get together. We've read through the script the other day, and it makes me laugh. So
the TV show was suddenly required to be a soap opera, which I thought was actually like a bad thing to say. And then one time, someone actually said it out loud at a meeting. I was like, oh, you really want it to be like a soap opera, but we wanted it to be funny.
Yeah.
So suddenly, all these, 10 years or more later, we're getting to do a funnier version of what it's like to put on a show.
Yeah.
This was Steven Spielberg's project from the beginning.
Yes, and he came to the reading, and must about a year ago around this time. Says, "I love it. Let's get it on." So
he's a really great audience, isn't he?
He's fantastic. I ran into him at Sean's Hayes' opening the other night. Well, you know, talk Smash, Smash, Smash. I said, okay.
my big Steven Spielberg moment I'll never forget is when we did a reading of Smash just almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we presented one new song, and so I went over to play it.
There are new songs in it.
So it's a song that's a kind of anthem for Broadway. And it went over well, and when I came back to the table, Spielberg just grabbed my hand, and was just like, that was, you know, just in a, God, that was so good, and isn't it exciting? And he just grabbed my hand, and that energy of, I'll never wash that hand again.
Those are big pinch me moments. You know, you grow up, we all want to come to New York City, or a lot of us do, and like start a career around Broadway or show business and everything else. And then you get to work with someone like Steven Spielberg, who like grabs your hand and says, let's just put this on. And this was terrific.
Yeah, I mean, I saw John Kander the other night, and he came over to tell me how much he loved Some Like It Hot. And that's very special to me.
Yeah, he's 96.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And still working.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing?
I'm 63 and I'm done.
No, you're not done. There's listen, Smash is coming. What you least expected is going to be someone's going to
pull you back.
They pull you back, right? You talked about the first song you wrote for Some Like It Hot. What was the last song you wrote for the show that went in before it was frozen?
I think A Poor Little Millionaire. Yeah, we did a workshop.
That wasn't
Instead of going out of town, we did a 4-week rehearsals, and then for 2 weeks we did performances at a small theater on 42nd Street, all in street clothes, just like a rehearsal performance, but with real people coming to see it. And Osgood had a song for all these readings, and we're always like, something's not quite landing. And so we finally went down in that room. We were talking earlier, Richie, about what it used to be, you know, back in the day, when you'd go down to the lobby of a theater or wherever, and we went downstairs and we wrote a new song, but it was too late to get it into even the one last day of the performances. But we knew that day we could watch the show and know, oh, that song's going away, because we had something. But the truth is, then we rewrote that song. We wrote a song, but then we thought the lyrics were a little too much in the dirty old man territory. So we used the same music but wrote new lyrics to it, and that's what's in the show now.
But Casey's one of the few people who could, I don't mind when he says, what else you got?
Yeah. So he's old school.
And that's
I mean old school in the best way.
I mean, Let's Be Bad, it was because there was a song called The Good Neighbor Policy.
Yeah.
And it was the girls going, you know, and it was a south of the border kind of song. And Casey did say this, what else you got? Can it be something like hotter, something, you know, just more?
I said, well, okay.
You know, and we went home and we were like, and we just kind of realized we already wrote this song. It's Let's Be Bad, which we wrote for Some Like It Hot on Smash. It was this make-believe moment that Marilyn had another song in Some Like It Hot. And it was just perfect for what he wanted, but we refurbished the lyrics so that it's more joyous, because in Smash it's a nervous breakdown. Yeah. She's trying to be bad and do all these things to you know, just disrupt everyone's life. But over here it's just a joy, and so it's.
So if the fates allow, they'll both be performed on Broadway at the same time.
Yeah. How fast do you write songs, or how slow does it take you to write songs?
Scott always says it takes a lifetime in 3 days.
I like that.
But yeah, you know, it just sometimes it takes, obviously it takes a long time.
Yeah. And for anyone out there listening or watching, we always sit terrified.
The first day
that we have
scared.
Nothing left to write.
There's nothing more frightening than a white piece of paper.
There's never a song where we jump into that room and just start writing. It's always just abject
Isn't
terror.
that what The Shining is about? The movie The Shining is just about blank white paper and the fear of it. So that's what I identify with that movie and totally because of that.
No, because I can imagine you say, yeah, we're going to write this musical. Then you sit in a room, because I mean, what's over there? The score is gorgeous over there, but I'm sure you sat there some days and said, where are we going? What are we doing? Right. But that's where the research comes in. Yes. Where you sat here, you hear phrases and all of this stuff and a music style. Mm-hmm. And then, so sometimes it's lyrics first and then it's the music, or is it ever the other way around?
It's, you know, I don't know that we've ever actually had me just write a melody before any lyric. We always have a lyric. I may go to the piano with a full lyric. Lately, in the last few years, we actually write a full lyric before I even go to the piano. And then at the piano, things happen where we'll adapt what we first thought we had. But at least, you know, Scott will say, give me a rhythm. What's the rhyme scheme? One song on this show, we actually put on a Duke Ellington record. It's an instrumental, just because it was the perfect tempo. So as we were writing the lyrics, every now and then we would just put that tempo on, just because it was a train song. One of the great Duke Ellington had many numbers about trains, and so that just was inspiring to us to get the right rhythm for a lyric. But then I went to the piano, and I probably wasn't anything, well, I'm not Duke Ellington, so obviously it wasn't like what we've been listening to, but that did serve as a springboard.
Yeah. You know, you guys don't go out, no one goes out of town really much anymore because it's too expensive to take a show out of town. So like when you're in your preview period over there, I knew a lot of people who would go a lot during the previews and just watch the show getting just honed and perfected, you know, over and over and over. What do you two love the most about the preview period when the audience is brought in and you see what needs to be changed or maybe doesn't need to be changed?
Well, and usually it's always about time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we probably during previews needed to cut about 10 minutes, which is so much. And also, it's also about polishing the humor of it. So and so there was a lot of that. But cutting, like even cutting out a verse or a dance break out of something even as minuscule as 30 seconds, it all adds up to the end. So
like you can't have me if you don't have him.
Yeah.
It had a bridge that was 8 bars, typical 8-bar bridge, but we took out this 4 bars of it, figured out how to still musically and lyrically get from point A to point B, but to do it in 4 bars, and it was amazing. It just made that whole section of the show. It didn't have that moment of like, okay, we see what you're doing now, okay. It just got to the dance break better. And luckily on the cast album, we were able to reinstate those 4
Put
bars.
It back.
I love that. Well, that's those hidden Easter eggs that happen when you could do that on a cast album, because they used to be like 42 minutes. They couldn't put anything on them.
No.
And now I guess with, I could call CDs still, but
CDs
are gone, right?
One name I would love to say is that Glenn Kelly, the dance arranger on this show, is a genius. And the show would not be anywhere what it is if it hadn't been for his input.
He stops the show. Casey and he stopped the show every night with the ballet.
But he also did like the incidental music. It's something that I normally do. So it was very bizarre to have someone else. I mean, it's one thing, dance arrangements, he has a relationship with Casey, but like, the stuff from, Spats comes here and it's just a joy to listen to. I every time when I go to the show, I'm like, my God, Glenn Kelly, he's just top of the mountain.
Yeah. Let's mention a few names. Casey Nicholaw. What was it like just watching him work and put your show together?
Well, he was great fun, and we loved the people with him too. Steve and John, and the team he assembles. He makes it a very pleasant experience. It's been a very pleasant experience, the whole show from beginning to end. Just fabulous. And then we have 2 great arrangers, Brian Carter and Charlie Rosen, who are they're the best. I mean, the best.
We've spoken to them a lot. I love that there are a couple that do, the 2 gentlemen that do this. I think their stuff's really dynamite. Really, really great. I mean, the cast you've assembled for this show. I mean, let's just talk about, Jay Harrison G. I mean, Christian, Adriana. I mean, just talk about your and Natasha and Kevin. I mean, what a fabulous cast you have in that show.
It all happened little by little. And, when we were auditioning Sweet Sue, the kind of great thing was that there was no race about it. We had white girls, we had black girls, we had Latina. We didn't know exactly what this part might be. We were like, let's see who's out there and hear them sing the song. And then Natasha came in and it was like, and she's so funny. She has this spectacular voice, so you think God would have said, that's enough for you. But he also gave her the comedy timing of all, she's just amazing. And, may I go on?
Yeah.
She's so sweet and wonderful to work with and to sit with, because, we've worked with a lot of divas, both male and female. And sometimes that great talent also means it's a personality that you have to maneuver, and I'm sure they might say it about me. But Natasha is just one of a kind.
And she opens the show.
Yes.
And she just sets the whole tone of, here we go, we're going on a ride. And then you have Christian and Jay together. I mean, what a great combination the 2 of them are.
They're like Hope and Crosby. They're really fantastic.
And then Kevin, I love what you've done, because I knew the Cyril Richard role from Sugar, whatever. I just love what you've done with him, making him like dim-witted or whatever. But in this, he's so wonderful.
He's actually the smartest one, because he's the one who knows everything.
He's figured it all out.
Yeah, I love that, because that's very much in Matthew Lopez. And wanted him to have this other life where he was Osgood in the States and a Mexican citizen the other. So he's like he's the one who's peeling the onion all night. So he already knows who everyone's story is, because everyone has something underneath them that they want to let out. So.
I love his arc.
Yeah.
He is the smartest person in the show. I mean, just the history that he has. And well, let's mention Matthew and Amber Ruffin. I mean, Matthew Lopez and Amber Ruffin. We sat with them here. What a beautiful book they've given you. And we're collaborating with them, what you've enjoyed the most.
It was great fun. Amber's very funny, and she certainly added a lot to the Sugar character. And Matthew's written some beautiful, beautiful dialogue. And then, you know, we also have Christian and Joe Farrell, his writing partner, were part of the process too. So they've added a lot of the humor of the show too. So.
Oh, his stuff is hilarious.
Yeah.
When he's in that bed. I mean, I cannot wait to go back and see your show again. And your leading lady, talk about your leading lady who plays Sugar.
She's just wonderful.
Yeah.
She's not unlike Natasha. She's also so wonderful to collaborate with and work with. She's just as sweet as can be, and yet she can belt those notes out every night. Knock wood. I hope like tonight won't be the night.
No, she doesn't miss. She doesn't miss. She says it's the happiest part of her day is coming to the theater.
That's what I love about your cast. They don't miss. You know, she's really wonderful.
Yeah.
I want to mention just a few other shows. Just tell me a favorite memory or something. I mean, Hairspray. We all fell in love with Hairspray. Hairspray should still be running. I was until
it is in L.A.
Well, good. Okay, fabulous.
It opens at like the Pantages or something.
Yeah, at the Dolby,
that big theater next week.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Are you guys going out?
No.
Well, it's a big week next week.
Nina West texted me saying, "Are you going to come to our opening night?" And I said, "When is it?"
Yeah.
He said, "Next Tuesday." I said, "Well,
that's a big
Tony
day.
Nominations are coming out, and we're doing the Today Show, which we perform 15 minutes after they announce the nominations. So tune in to see either the most joyous version of the song or the saddest." But I said, I don't think I can get on a plane that day.
Nina's so great.
Yeah,
so good.
I did a big interview with Nina too. I love Nina West. Just the success, what's happened to Nina, but to do like Hairspray and to do that show.
Oh yeah, and has been on the road for 2 years.
Oh yeah.
And
it doesn't miss.
It doesn't miss.
Old school. It's like Mary Martin, Ethel Merman, the old.
It's so important in the world
of course
today.
It is.
Because how awful the world is about.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Favorite memory of working on Hairspray for the two of you? You must have so many.
There are too many. Well,
the Tony
I remember that Marissa got sick in Seattle. Kind of early on in one of the earliest previews, she got really like bronchitis, really sick, like really can't go on. And we went back to the hotel room afterwards and told her, well, anyway, we just laughed. I just remember laughing and laughing because we were trying also to make, she felt so terrible about missing. And I remember the laughter in that room very much.
And they were that group was so wild out of town. I can't even the game. I wouldn't even tell you what games they used to play on the night off.
Yeah, we just had a great time. And even when bad things happened on Hairspray, like someone dropped out or we had a fight for a song, it always ended up still having a happy ending and being. So even bad things, something good grew out of it. I mean,
yeah, Catch Me If You Can. Still, it plays in my head. I loved that musical. Aaron,
you're the one.
I'm the one. I'm the one. The whole opening, everything. I remember going into the rehearsal room when they invited the press in. It was so exciting just to watch a rehearsal close.
Yeah. Well, we opened the night before Book of Mormon.
But favorite memory of that? I mean, what a great, talk about a fabulous movie that's turned into a spectacular Broadway musical.
Yeah, and it still gets done. I mean, you've not seen anything until you've seen a high school do Catch Me If You Can, and one of the seniors is playing the drunk father.
But what'd you love the most, Mark?
Writing it with Scott.
Yeah, we had fun. It was fun writing.
But that's what I want to ask you. It awards time and everything else is now. Put all that aside. You write such beautiful musicals for the stage. You write movies too and everything else. But you love doing this, don't you? Seriously, sitting with the creative team, working together, going into a theater, watching magic happen. Then you add the audience into the whole thing, and you realize what you do it for.
Yeah, I like the family you're in.
Yeah.
And you know what? The older you get, the more frightened you get. Yeah. But I also think that, to me, it becomes about the hang of things, like because they take so long. So you say, do I want to spend the next 6 years with these people? And if the answer is yes, you're lucky.
Yeah, so. But you've written so many beautiful shows. What you've enjoyed the most about that process? Let's take it there.
Oh, you know, the rehearsals, you know, hearing something come to life. The invited dress and then the first preview when you realize, oh my God, it works. And that was a memory we'll always keep of Hairspray also. Yeah. That we were working on Hairspray and it seemed like this is really going well. And it just seems great, but you never know. But we were confident. It just seemed to be going well. And then we peeked out at the audience at the first preview in Seattle. And you know, you think you're writing basically for yourself. Yeah. And at that time we weren't, although we are now. But we looked out and it was just a sea of white hair. It looked like George and Martha Washington had cloned themselves. And there were 2,000 of them out there in Seattle. And we're like, oh, we didn't anticipate. Are they gonna like this at all? And then they loved it. So that was like, oh man, George and Martha liked it.
I had goosebumps just from that, but it's magic. The audience is in, all the lights come up, it's show business. Right. This is what you do. Opening nights, do you love opening nights? Do you sit in the house on opening night? I know a lot of composers don't. You do.
I do, yeah.
We had the nice experience this time around of having a small party because of COVID. Yeah. And, you know, we've had every version of this. But when someone yelled out, "The Times is a rave."
Well, that was Nathan Lane and Bridget Everett started. They started going rave, rave, rave. That was a nice feeling. So, it's much better than when you have to circle the wagons.
The sweetest version thing about that was my husband Lou, who is not in show business at all, but he's lived with me and he knows and he knew what I would be like if things had gone differently, perhaps. And when he heard it was a rave, it was a rave, it was a rave, he's someone who doesn't show his emotions. He went to the corner, and they say, I didn't see it, just sat down and cried.
Aww. Because you're like, what do they call Oscar Levant? You are in a bad suit.
You are in a bad suit, yeah. So, you know, that meant a lot.
He was so happy opening night.
No, he was relieved.
No, but he was just on the carpet. He was so proud on that beautiful opening night carpet for you guys. But I want to thank you for everything you do, what you've given.
So kind to us.
No, but I mean, it's hard. I can only imagine what it's like to get a Broadway musical on. But you've had so many. They're so joyous, and like I said, I just every now and then, if I leave a show and your show's just getting out, I just watch the people and all the smiles.
Yeah, they seem happy. That's always.
And that's what you do it for, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you for sitting with me here for Broadway World. I love you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich.